The U.S. advantage in building the sixth-generation fighter jet comes from its powerful manufacturing system, which gives it a clear edge. This advantage is not due to luck, a single company, or just one program. It is the result of a complete industrial machine built over decades, now fine-tuned to create a jet as complex and demanding as the F-47. The U.S. can build this jet because its manufacturing system is designed for exactly this kind of challenge. Building the most advanced fighter ever should require slow and difficult development. The U.S. does the opposite. It speeds up, cuts risk, and adds new technology faster. Air superiority is the necessary basis for every mission that follows. If the U.S. cannot control the skies, every part of its military becomes vulnerable. The nation that builds the best sixth-generation fighter first will shape the future of air warfare. Digital engineering is the first major advantage. The U.S. does not rely on old-style prototypes that cause endless delays. Instead, it builds a complete digital copy of the fighter. Engineers test how the jet moves through the air, how well its stealth features work, and its sensor behavior in exact virtual environments. Thousands of changes are made before even one physical part is put together. This digital method shrinks years of development into months. Virtual testing replaces endless rework in the factory, making the design process a fast and flexible cycle. The industrial base itself is the next advantage. The U.S. has the world's largest and most developed aerospace supply chain. This is a real network of thousands of companies providing precise parts, advanced tools, stealth materials, engine components, electronic systems, and software integration. These suppliers have already built the F-22, the F-35, the B-2, and the B-21. Nations without this system struggle, not because they lack smart people, but because they do not have the layered, specialized network needed to build such a complex jet. Teamwork between the government and industry strengthens the next link. Agencies like the Air Force, DARPA, and research labs work directly with companies, giving them the newest technologies from experimental programs. This teamwork means that breakthroughs in engines, sensor merging, materials, and electronic warfare move smoothly from research to production. The $20 billion contract to build the F-47 was a public sign that Washington is committed to the program for the long haul. Efforts to reduce risk began long before the F-47 went into production. The U.S. flew multiple experimental X-planes to test next-generation ideas. These tests solved many technical problems early, reducing the risk of major setbacks later. This keeps the F-47 program on track while rivals struggle with untested systems that fail when they are scaled up. The structure of the challenge is clear. The problem: building the world's most advanced fighter should be slow, risky, and open to delays.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
The solution? An integrated system that cuts risk before production starts, allowing fast development without hurting performance. Official statements from Air Force leaders confirm that no other country can match the size, maturity, or speed of the American aerospace pipeline. Urgency builds as global competition gets stronger. China is working on its own programs. Russia is trying to recover from prototypes that stalled. The progress of the F-47 shows that the U.S. is not only staying ahead, but widening the gap. The final takeaway is that America's manufacturing system is a national security engine. It is the force that lets the U.S. produce world-leading aircraft faster than any rival. However, the fastest way to understand the future of air dominance is to look at a hidden truth. Even with the deepest aerospace system on Earth, the U.S. is now slowed by weaknesses in the supply chain that directly affect how fast the next fighter can be built. Real delays in necessary materials and components mean America may not prototype as fast as its rivals. Speed matters in the race for next-generation air power. The U.S. should be unbeatable in aerospace manufacturing, but cracks in the supply chain are holding back one of its most important programs. This contradiction creates tension. The US has the experience and industrial depth, yet faces bottlenecks. Delays in critical components threaten to reduce the US lead in next-generation air combat. Every month lost is a month when China speeds up. The same complexity that gives the US its edge also creates weaknesses when the supply chain breaks down. The F-47 program's timeline has slipped because key engine parts, high-temperature materials, and specialized subsystems are not arriving on schedule. The pandemic showed how global supply networks can fail under stress. Rare metals became harder to find. Geopolitical tension adds another issue. Engine development is especially at risk. The fear is that the US will build it too slowly, allowing rivals to field their versions first. Comparing the US to China makes the urgency sharper. China's method is faster because it is more controlled by the state. Production can increase quickly because the state directs resources, labor, and factories without debate. China is now testing new technology at a pace the US struggles to match. The US aims for a highly integrated fighter that combines automated systems, loyal wingman drones, and AI-driven command systems. Each piece depends on its own supply chain. Experts point to real weaknesses in the US supply chain, including shortages of critical minerals and delays in engine part manufacturing. Experts warn that without stronger domestic sourcing, the US risks losing the speed advantage. Yet the story also includes solutions. The US is spending heavily to strengthen domestic production of rare metals and accelerate digital engineering to avoid physical bottlenecks. New factories are opening to produce advanced engine components. The defense system is pressuring suppliers to find diverse sources. The US is not falling behind due to lack of knowledge or skill. It is slowed by the massive scale and ambition of its design goals. The final conclusion is simple and direct. The US still holds the world's strongest aerospace foundation. But speed is everything. Supply chain problems must be solved. The path forward is clear. Stronger manufacturing resilience, faster prototyping cycles, and a continuous focus on the industrial backbone. American advances in artificial intelligence, sensor merging, and directed energy weapons shift the sixth-generation fighter race in Washington's favor. The real game changer is intelligence. Machines that think, sensors that learn, and weapons that fire at the speed of light. Air dominance has always shaped global power. The nation that can see farther, decide faster, and strike first wins. Sixth-generation fighters replace human reaction speed with machine-level awareness. Artificial intelligence is at the core of this shift. AI is the brain behind the machine. It processes sensor inputs, predicts what the enemy will do, and chooses the best flight paths. The human pilot cannot keep up with the modern battle space. AI co-pilots handle everything that slows humans down. The gain is massive. It frees the human to think strategically while the AI handles the tactics instantly. Sensor merging expands this advantage even further.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
US sixth-generation concepts combine radar, infrared, and signals intelligence into one seamless picture. The aircraft becomes an all-around observer, aware of everything. This combined picture updates constantly from satellites, drones, and ground units. The fighter becomes the center of a living network, a combat cloud where data moves instantly. Directed energy weapons are the revelation that shifts the emotional tone. American sixth-generation fighters are being built to fire lasers and microwave systems that travel at the speed of light. These weapons intercept missiles instantly and disable enemy sensors. The side with directed energy wins the fight before the enemy even realizes what happened. Networked multi-domain warfare brings all the advantages together. The sixth-generation fighter becomes a command center, controlling drones, ships, and space assets. It survives cyber attacks with protected communication pathways. Rivals cannot copy this architecture. They lack the global network, the massive sensor infrastructure, and the computing system that the US built over decades. urgency builds as global competition accelerates. In modern engagements, milliseconds matter. AI reduces those milliseconds. Sensor merging removes uncertainty. Directed energy instantly eliminates threats. The US lead is structural. It is built on decades of investment in AI research, global sensor networks, and energy-based weapons. AI-driven autonomy extends the pilot's mind. Sensor merging extends the pilot's sight. Directed energy extends the pilot's reach. The experience gained from the F-22 and F-35 programs speeds up the U.S. sixth-generation fighter timeline. Both jets expose the hard problems and the successful solutions that now let engineers move fast without taking risks. The future is arriving faster because 2 earlier programs absorbed the difficulties. Mature design is the first major element that speeds things up. With the F-22 and F-35, engineers spent decades learning exactly how stealth shapes work and how prototypes must change to meet real combat needs. That history removes uncertainty today. The US is starting from a proven set of rules for how the aircraft moves through the air and how to make it stealthy. Software is the second accelerator. The F-35 moved to modular code, fast development, and continuous improvement. All those lessons now power the sixth-generation fighter. The new jet will receive frequent, small updates. It reduces risk, saves time, and keeps the aircraft evolving as fast as the threats change. Another huge accelerator is human-machine teaming. The F-22 and F-35 showed that pilots cannot manually manage the overwhelming amount of data. Today's sixth-generation jets build on years of experience integrating AI co-pilots and loyal wingman drones. The US already knows the limits of human attention. Learning from the industry and supply chain forms the fourth accelerator. Building the F-22 and F-35 forced contractors to master complex stealth manufacturing and precise coatings. When the sixth-generation program begins, this industrial memory is already in place. The US taps into the system created by decades of producing fifth-generation aircraft. Operational experience is the next accelerator. The F-22 and F-35 produce massive amounts of data. What breaks, what performs, what tactics work. That information shapes the sixth-generation requirements with unmatched clarity. This operational truth removes the risk of building a jet that fails to meet real needs. The F-22 and F-35 paid the price, so the next generation does not have to. Their delays and problems taught engineers what not to do. Experts confirm that the sixth-generation fighter would be impossible to build quickly if the F-22 and F-35 had not existed. Urgency emerges when you realize why this speed is important. Adversaries are building their own stealth jets. If the US took as long to develop the next generation as it did with the F-22 or F-35, it would fall behind. Because those older programs created a roadmap, the US can move quickly. The future moves faster when the past teaches well. The strongest proof that American pilots gain unmatched readiness comes from one fact. The United States controls global testing ranges linked to live data networks that create a training loop no other nation can match. Every flight, every simulated threat, and every mistake turns into immediate learning fuel. American pilots fly over massive, instrumented ranges built to copy the stress and pressure of actual combat. These ranges hold electronic warfare emitters and networked simulators that recreate enemy behavior with brutal accuracy. The ranges act as a pressure cooker that creates readiness. The US integrates live, virtual, constructive systems that connect real jets with simulated enemies and AI-generated threats. A pilot flying an actual aircraft can fight hundreds of virtual adversaries at once. Augmented reality adds another layer. A pilot flying in clear skies can see virtual enemy aircraft and missile tracks rendered in the visor. This trains cognitive speed under pressure. Future combat will be decided by the pilot who processes information fastest. Access to global ranges gives American pilots more time in complex airspace. Live data networks give them more practice against advanced threats. Synthetic training gives them more mental repetitions in less time. Cross-domain integration pushes readiness even further. U.S. training networks link fighters with drones, satellites, ships, and ground units during simulated missions. Pilots learn to direct unmanned systems and coordinate with naval forces. Multinational integration connects allies, allowing shared training. Without this advanced network, pilots would lose the chance to train against realistic threats. The U.S. has built a structure where losing readiness is almost impossible. American pilots train in environments designed to challenge them. The feedback loop makes them sharper and calmer under extreme pressure. American access to global testing ranges and live data networks gives its pilots a training system no rival can copy. It builds faster reflexes, deeper understanding, and stronger instincts. The training loop becomes a weapon of its own, turning every pilot into a sharper, smarter, more capable force. Adversaries who rely on espionage instead of original research slow themselves down more than they realize. Sixth-generation fighters expose the fault in this strategy. These aircraft depend on deep scientific foundations and a level of innovation that cannot be copied. The more an adversary depends on espionage, the harder it becomes for them to build the very aircraft they are trying to imitate. The first major weakness is incomplete knowledge. When an adversary steals blueprints, they are not stealing the years of experimentation behind those blueprints. A stealth coding formula without the right materials is useless. Espionage cannot replicate the harmony between hardware, software, and manufacturing. The second weakness is the innovation bottleneck. Copying something forces you to stick to the shape of what already exists. Adversaries who rely on theft remain tied to yesterday's ideas. Every hour spent copying a stolen design is an hour not spent pushing the boundaries of science. The third weakness is supply chain and manufacturing limitations. Even perfect data cannot overcome weak industrial capacity. Building advanced engines requires decades of research into turbine blades and thermal coatings. Nations relying on espionage cannot copy the factories, the skills, or the culture. Espionage skips the journey, and without it, the destination collapses. The fourth weakness is the danger of deception. Defense industries have learned how to feed misleading data or fake weaknesses into the channels adversaries try to exploit. When a nation relies on stolen information, it becomes vulnerable to manipulation. It builds the wrong systems. The fifth weakness is dependence on external technologies. Sixth-generation fighters require the highest levels of domestic capability in electronics, propulsion, and software. Espionage can steal ideas, but not the industries that produce those ideas. You must build an ecosystem. The countries that rely on espionage will continue to face delays and manufacturing failures. Every year lost in this race is a year where their adversaries widen the lead. Espionage can steal information, but it cannot steal understanding. Real progress comes from original research. Real capability comes from investments that espionage cannot replace. Copying is fast. Mastery is slow. But only mastery wins. The U.S. could win the sixth-generation fighter race by integrating autonomy, stealth, and hypersonic roles into one cohesive platform. No other nation is close to blending these three capabilities into a single machine. The U.S. is not just trying to build a better fighter, it is trying to build a fighter that changes what air combat even means. Air superiority is becoming harder every year. The U.S. is preventing loss of air control, and loss of tactical advantage. Official statements confirm this shift. U.S. Air Force statements highlight autonomy as the defining trait. AI handles tactical maneuvering and defensive reactions faster than any human could. This level of autonomy merges with the pilot's strategic thinking. Stealth is the second pillar, and it goes far beyond radar. Multispectral stealth means hiding from infrared sensors, electro-optical sensors, and electronic detection systems. The U.S. is pursuing materials that absorb heat and coatings that scatter infrared energy. It is about overwhelming detection systems. Hypersonic rolls add the final layer of tension. Launching a Mach 5 Plus strike from a stealth platform changes the attack timeline so drastically that no defensive system today can reliably intercept it. The US wants fighters that can carry hypersonic missiles deep into contested airspace, strike hard, and disappear. If the US does not integrate these capabilities, a competitor that links two of these traits could challenge US dominance. But a competitor that links all three would overturn it. The American approach focuses on cohesion. Autonomy, stealth, and hypersonic roles all strengthen each other. A sixth-generation American fighter enters contested airspace with drones under its control. Its AI brain manages threat scans. Its stealth profile masks it. It launches a hypersonic strike that crosses dozens of miles in seconds. The fighter exits the zone before interceptors can respond. The US does not need to build the fastest fighter to win the race. It needs to build the most integrated one. A fighter that can coordinate drone swarms, hide from multi-layer detection, and deliver Mach 5 strikes is an ecosystem. It will redefine what dominance means in the sky. America's defense industrial budget gives the United States a strategic freedom that most nations can't even attempt. Sixth-generation fighter innovation continues year after year, even when the rest of the world slows down. The budget itself becomes a weapon. The Pentagon is committing billions to the F-47 fighter in FY 2026 alone, with more planned before 2029. Washington is cutting legacy systems to feed next-generation projects. That reallocation shows a willingness to sacrifice the familiar to fund the future. Every dollar pushes toward a new capability. The heart of sixth-generation innovation lies in RDT&E, research, development, testing, and evaluation. This is where real breakthroughs happen, and this is where America spends aggressively. Rivals simply cannot match this. Their programs take longer, their prototypes appear slower, and their technology matures later. The US has a defense budget so large that it can absorb shocks without stopping innovation. Even when debates get heated, sixth-generation work continues. Rival economies lack this cushion. When budgets tighten, their programs suffer delays. Innovation is a race of endurance. America's industrial base becomes a force multiplier. With steady funding, companies can make multi-year plans instead of gambling on short-term budgets. This stability attracts top engineers and keeps them inside the ecosystem. A stable budget protects the innovation chain that supports the aircraft. Experts and global observers all confirm that the US is prioritizing sixth-generation fighters aggressively. The money is there, the plan is clear, and the work is underway. Rival nations react with concern. America's defense industrial budget isn't just big, it's stable, strategic, and purpose-driven. It funds sixth-generation fighters as pillars of an interconnected future of air combat. It shields innovation from economic storms. It ensures that technologies like autonomous teaming, hypersonic integration, and advanced stealth continue to evolve without interruption. The deeper truth is this: while rivals look for shortcuts, America invests in the long game. The long game wins. What you've seen is only the beginning. America's power is just getting started. On your screen is the next video. Click the video, it opens right away, and you'll watch US jets and technology strike even harder.